judge's ruling last week that her appointment as U.S. Attorney was invalid. CNN Time and Justice correspondent Caitlin Polance is here with more reporting on this. Caitlin, tell us what's happening.
We are in a legal twilight zone. Nobody knows who is right because we've never seen this situation before. There's a prosecutor in court on Tuesday who has been doing this job for 35 years who said, I just don't really know. What this comes down to is that the Justice Department says Lindsay Halligan is still the U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia. They want her name on new criminal case filings, indictments, guilty pleas, and the judges in the Eastern District of Virginia, they're saying, wait a minute, what about that women? And the judges in the Eastern District of Virginia, they're saying, wait a minute, what about that women? And we got a lot of things from the report this week, looking at what judges were saying. Magistrate Williams he said, filing under Williams' name is saying, the grand jury said no to that yesterday. The Justice Department might try again, even if she were to be indicted again. Others are indicted, others still on filing. But she herself, even if it's not, she was able to do it because the Justice Department wants to make sure that they don't do it. It's not, she was able to do it.
Now, think about grand jury proceedings more like a deposition than actually something like this. But and that's one that will get a grand jury. They can make recommendations. It's not an indictment. That's to go to a different grand jury.
Today is the day that everybody found out David was the most Googled person on the internet. Well, seems like he's going to be going to jail soon because 6ix9ine's request to delay his upcoming sentencing date has reportedly been approved by a judge. He is now set to be sentenced on December 5th, where he could be facing 3 to 9 months in prison for allegedly violating the terms of his probation. So that was that. And now that caught you guys up to today. Well, it turns out that y'all remember this little ride right here?
What up? Thanks for watching. Think I'm gonna play Stop Putt.
Yeah, that's when they were busting through Tekashi 6ix9ine's house because he got caught with a whole lot of stuff. And today, he got 50. Man, let's go ahead and do it. City. Future details. Tekashi 6ix9ine, 3 months prison sentence will be by success. Expected PC situation because of snitch reputation. 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. TMZ 6ix9ine, Tekashi 6ix9ine. Tell TMZ Hip Hop he isn't worried about his 3-month prison sentence. Come January, he'll be confined away from the madness and will use the solitary shape. Chicago was 6-9 following the judge's verdict, and he said the sentence was fair, telling the judge got to hear all the facts he and his legal team presented. Tekashi had a 2 point, not something worth 6, but he said he'll be housing securely because of his snitch status. Tekashi says he's never been attacked in prison, and doesn't think it'll happen this go around, but does admit he's pretty fat and needs to get his weight now. That's hilarious. The rainbow hair rapper is currently sitting at a plump 190 pounds and aims to get down to 120 pounds only by eating 1 box of Oreo cookies each day. Very funny as hell, man. He carries the same energy outside the courtroom, time will tell, but he should still be able to stay straight after Spencer Tekashi 6'9", Tekashi break at his sentence Friday says has been pushing for the rainbow hair rapper. He gets prison time on various probation violations, and the judge agrees to just 6 months. The judge labeled Tekashi a dumpster fire during his sentencing in federal court in New York City on Friday and explained the violation requires prison time no matter what, but he opted not to throw the book at him. He now has a report dated January 6, 2026, and was the same judge who granted his conditional release during the COVID-19 pandemic and felt smarter decisions would be made, but apparently they have not. The rapper had previously fessed up to possessing the opposite of Pepsi, and in addition to pleading guilty to assaulting a man in a mall who called him physical face, which would literally contradict how you going to say that you can switch label in prison, but you can punch somebody outside. But it is what it is. 6'9" has been on probation since coming home in 2020 after his highly profile racketeering case involving the 9 drugs where he testified against them after claiming they double-crossed him. Feds raided Tekashi's property earlier this year when they recovered the drugs. At least they have about 90 days to sober up now. And I'm going to be honest. Tekashi 6'9" said that, hey, bro, the people who broke into my house, there were kids and all this stuff and everything, and blah, blah, blah. Kids with guns? Yeah, I still, once again, I believe he set that up. And so did. It worked. He was looking at 3 to 9, what they said in the previous article. I thought he was looking at 2 years. I thought it was like 3 months to 2 years. But I could be wrong, and that's fine. But I believe he set that up because the judge basically said flat out, hey, when they pushed the date back for him to be sentenced, the judge basically said, yo, you know what? Go ahead and we'll push your court date back so that you can set up all this stuff with your moms and all that because you got robbed. I think, this is what I think. I think Tekashi set it up based on knowing that and seeing how the judge would react. Because he's been making a mockery of this whole entire doing the live streams, making fun of like jail situations and all that. And last I checked, and maybe it's just off comments and all that crap, from people who've been in jail and people who've been in prison, they don't like this shit. The ones who've been there. You don't see cats who already been in prison, who already been in jail, them basically be doing this shit. What you do have at times, and I do know somebody who they do the locked up stuff who was a felon, but they had to get up out of there. They couldn't. They were like, I'm gone. I can't do this shit. No, I gotta go. I gotta go. I can't. Hell no, I'm out. I can't do this one. So when I see certain things like this that exist,
we're almost out of time. Buckle down and take this.
How dumb are people? Judges are human beings as well. In the video I'm gonna tell you guys a quick one at the end. The judge in the Diddy case, he basically said he heard the right? And people misinterpreted what he said, right? In the documentary, and this is all going to correlate to 6ix9ine. I know some of y'all think I'm getting off subject. No, I'm not. The judge said, we agreed, and people thought, oh my gosh, no. He's talking about it's domestic violence, and that's what Juror like 106 said. This wasn't a case about domestic violence as far as Diddy kicking this woman and all this stuff down the hall. No, the way the feds pointed it was Stockholm Syndrome due by force of coercion. But the judge basically was like, I hear you, I read everybody's stuff, but the victims matter the most. I'm willing to bet that Tekashi wrote a letter to that judge, basically dangerous, and knowing that he was not going to escape out of this trap, knowing that he was going to go back in jail or federal prison for a while, knowing all of this shit, I 100% believe that's what happens when you use it. Now, some of y'all are probably feel bad for this. I would ask you the simple question, why? How could you feel bad for him? Because at the end of the day, he did participate in the shit that went on. Now, do I care that he told on Sprayway and all the 9 Trey Bloods and all that? Nah, not really, because I can understand where he's coming from. I didn't believe the bullshit about the polygraph test that he wouldn't have told had his homies not crossed him. I'm sorry. I don't believe that. But what I do believe is that he is more intelligent than he is smart, meaning he knows how to manipulate people. He definitely does. So with that being said, they'll go in January 6th and then come back out, presumably April 6th, March 6th, whatever the hell, do his 90 days and come back home and he'll be on that goddamn ankle monitor and all this crap. Yeah. But I think this time when he gets out, he actually, quote unquote, does the right thing. And some of you will go, well, how the hell do you know he'll do the right thing? Because the money from streaming, he's been able to essentially craft his own way, craft his own way, and place things how he wants to place them. Meaning, he's able to basically get on the internet and play with y'all the way that he knows how to play with y'all and come off likable. There's nothing on this, by the way. I know that's what you like. Oh, he's reading it because I just seen this thing. Nah, it was just right there. That's one of the things I use when I'm creating these thumbnails. So, yeah, bro, I don't believe 6ix9ine, but I do believe he was intelligent enough to basically sway the picture judge. And it worked. And do I hate on that? Hell nah. You gotta do what you gotta do at the end of it. Nobody wants to be in jail. Nobody wants to be in prison, except those who are broke. And I don't mean like actually homeless people. I mean pathetic people who don't want the responsibility of being a man and choose to go there. Meal, shower, medical care, dental care, all of that stuff, all of this shit for the medical stuff. And you know people, we all know people who are just like that have been in prison. But Cassius, we'll see you when you get out. He'll still be streaming, he'll still be doing all this stuff, and people will still watch. Will it phase out? I don't know. I have no idea. But in the 3 months that's going to happen by the time he gets out, somebody's going to get killed on camera again. Some rapper's going to die. It's going to happen in March. It's going to basically tear the whole world apart. We got the Lil Durk stuff coming up. Lil Durk's trial supposed to be happening and all this shit. So there's a bevy of things that are supposed to happen. So by the time he gets out, there's going to be a bunch of things that already happened. We'll have YW Melly update. We have the Mo3 stuff going on. So it is a whole lot of things for him to get to by the time he gets out. And y'all know, we all like opinionated people like myself. Hit that like button real quick if you can. Help a friend, help a man. It's lagging on the like. I don't know why, but hey, it is what it is. But other than that, check your people to wear, subscribe to the notify. Click right here to see how Denver's a monster, but the answers or the top 10 things you should have looked for get explained. Click right here for the playlist. You can see your day. I will catch y'all in the next one.
You've been all over the David story from the very beginning. Explain why an investigative grand jury is doing an evidence research and what that means.
So, for those who aren't following us
Your metrics are
and
slipping.
other podcasts
Clean it up.
I have said for months now that it's obvious for any sentient being who practices law in Los Angeles County that the LAPD and the coroner are off. And usually it's a very symbiotic relationship, as you two know, between the coroner, the pathologist, and usually the chief coroner.
Rob Hunt.
This has
Hide and
had all the
survive.
earmarks from day one of them at login. And that has been confirmed in the dueling press releases that we've seen in the last couple of weeks. Not the least of which is then what happened was the LADA basically at the behest, or actually I think it was the LAPD, went in, first they went in to try to get an order to shut down the ME from me talking or releasing anything. They were rebuffed, if you believe what's being reported. Then they went in again and they got a judge to shut it down, shut them down. the ME issued a statement saying, I'm calling BS on this. We should be transparent. And so the reaction was to them, go to the grand jury. For those who are not practitioners in California, specifically LA County, unlike other jurisdictions, it's very rare to have the grand jury do this. And they usually do it in very high-profile or secretive cases. That's exactly what's going on here. And it's highly, highly unusual. I don't know what's going on at the LAPD, but I will tell you that this is not business as usual.
Let me read the quote from the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office. It's Dr. Ode Ukpo, if I'm pronouncing that right, and his response to this publicly, quote, the practice of security holds is virtually unheard of in other counties and has not been proven to improve outcomes in the legal system. We are dedicated to serving our community with full transparency. However, the law precludes us from doing so while the court order remains in this case. Still, you've done a lot of murders. You ever had a case for a coroner? Be careful how you couch that. Yeah, sorry. You have been involved in the legal system with many murders not committed by you. How's that? Yeah. I mean, yeah, well, unproven at this point. Yeah.
So I've been I don't have the inside perspective, obviously, out in LA like you guys do. And Mark, your insight is really fascinating to hear this, because I can't really tell, like, does the medical examiner, the coroner, is that
DC is nearing
individual
zero. Close
saying,
the deal.
I believe this was a homicide, and the police are investigating it not as a homicide, or is it the other way around? I can't figure out what side of the fence these warring parties are seem to be at. The thing is, with this investigative grand jury, it's rare. Here in Georgia, where I practice as well, it's not unheard of, but it is rare. Normally, the law enforcement agency investigating a case can do all the investigation, work up their case, present it to a district attorney, who then takes the case to a normal grand jury and secure an indictment. They don't need to do this, and I'm curious as to why they're doing it. The only thing that really pops into my mind, and this is because I'm a cynic. I'm always cynical about these things. A prosecutor can use a grand jury for their own purposes, right? They can take advantage of the secrecy of the grand jury if, let's say, case where the public there might be a public criminal charges. They can use
That is one round.
It,
keep it up and we can talk.
Direction, and if the grand jury says, look, we're not going to recommend charges, and the prosecutor says, hey, the grand jury says there wasn't a crime, so it's not all right. Which the truth of the matter is, it doesn't really have a whole lot more to add, because it's a secret, and I will tell you why they need to do it.
I tell you, Phil, we've got
operation is under executive surveillance. I want it pristine.
Kind of interesting in what we're talking about. The breadcrumbs are first the LAPD is shut down. I mean, I have had a long relationship, as I call that. I say that with a smile on my face, with the LAPD. But they normally leak like a sieve. In this case, they were not leaking. They were incredibly tight-lipped. Then there was some reporting that was done, and they came out and did something I've never seen them do in recent memory, where they basically were saying something to the effect of, we're not even sure a crime was committed. Mm-hmm. Kind of inferred that, or you can take from that, okay, maybe the working hypothesis was she OD'd, this poor girl OD'd, on some drug, and then the body was disposed of. Well, that's still arguably a crime, so I don't know what that statement, how that statement advanced things. Then there was the kind of the leak, so to speak, that there was a trip to Santa Barbara. That has been bandied back and forth. First it was denied, then it was confirmed. Now it's clearly been confirmed. And then I say the trip to Santa Barbara, all the internet streets will tell you where was LAPD all along, because there were posts, and if you take a look at the posts related to two of the people who were under suspicion, those are geosensed to rural areas of Santa Barbara. The internet is already solved that. Then you come to this last piece, which was the body either decapitated or frozen. And LAPD, that blew their minds, apparently. And there was reporting that was done that clearly the body was decapitated and that the body was frozen. And they now have said, the ME has said, that the fingers were waterlogged, which is consistent with having been frozen. That's right around the time LAPD was trying to shut all of this down. You, I think, hit on it, Phil, and I'm interested in what Matt said. I think there is a disconnect between whether the ME, my belief, is saying this is a homicide already, and LAPD is saying
MTC is running dry. It is now or never.
And that's driving LAPD to the point of distraction, which is why they were able to get Richmond to shut down any.
Yeah, I worked with a lot of murders, guys, with a lot of, I did a lot of grand jury work between the homicide unit for 17 years. I've never even heard of a coroner trying to comment during the pendency of an investigation. Our coroner in Orange County, Mark, as you know, you've probably dealt with Dr. Hugelon before. He understood his lane, he understood his role, and he never stepped out of line. This is really interesting, and it's interesting to see.
Would it be rude for me to say that as a former homicide prosecutor where you and I did battle for many years, that the reason that he did that is because he was subservient to the Orange County DA's office, and he knew what his lane was,
which was to get this under control,
and to do your bidding as the DA, because that's certainly the cross-examination that I normally would engage in with the OC coroner's office.
So first of all, he's still there. He's awesome. I don't know if you ever crossed him. The guy's phenomenal. But some people might be tempted to believe that if they didn't see my colleague Mike Murray, who's now a Superior Court judge. Mike wanted time of death estimations by Dr. Hugelon. And as you know, Mark, that's a gift to almost every defense lawyer. It's never right. Time of death, like we see on Quincy or on TV, is never accurate.
It's an art,
Dr. Hugelon on his own was like, this is bullshit, guys. This never works. You're asking, these are the parameters are so broad. Everybody sees it on TV, but it's not real. I don't want to do it anymore. It's going round and round. I think correctly. No offense to my buddy Mike, but Dr. Hugelon was exactly right on this one. So if you didn't see the battles going on behind the scenes where that man was standing up for what was right and what he believed,
I think you're right, Matt, but I think I have a different genesis there. I think it was after he had been subjected, and his office had been subjected to a couple of withering cross-examinations that I actually witnessed in a courtroom on the time of death on a couple of very high-profile cases down in the county. And then he said, I'm not going there anymore. I'm not defending this. This is nonsense.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting issue. I really want to get into this Brian Walsh case, and let's play SOT 1 if we can. This is the cross-examination of one of the police officers. For those who don't know, this is a no-body case taking place out of Massachusetts. I personally love the accent. And this is a guy who's on trial for the murder of his wife, where they got into some forensic examination of his computers, and boy, oh boy, was that a jackpot. If we could play SOT 1.
What is the title on page 735, record 2638?
Can you be charged with murder without a body? Google search.
What is the title on page 738, record 2647?
Murder conviction without a body, Wikipedia.
What is the title on page 738, record 2649?
No corpse, ? No problem. Notable murder convictions without a body, A&E True Crime.
You know, if you're the defense lawyer, you're praying that these searches were after the finger of suspicion was pointed at your client. Pray. Although, I will tell you,
You're almost out of time. Buckle down and take this.
General
Rollback mission is a failure.
Down in San Diego, so I'm not going to...
Yeah, the problem is he's not a defense lawyer working on murder cases and knows where it they started about 3 o'clock in the morning on January 1st, 2023, which is right when she went missing. And they continued for hours. And it's like, there's that old adage, you haven't invented a machine that can read your mind yet, but we kind of have. In Google, this is like my Daniel Wozniak case, where there was, you could see the guy as he's planning it. It would be like, loud, what is a loud gunshot? How many deaths was a loud gunshot? And he was planning his stealing money. He was planning a vacation with his soon-to-be wife, and it was gunshots to awesome cruises, awesome honeymoons. And anyway, Phil, what do you think about this one?
Well, this one is crazy. So let me start with the defense strategy was, okay, we're going to plead guilty to everything related to the disposing of this body. And by the way, I think that we have some video that was played in court, which basically the prosecutor shows defendant Brian Walsh kind of casually cruising around in his car, tossing out, trash bags with the body parts in it. But the strategy was to plead guilty to everything related to destroying the body and all that sort of stuff, and say, she died of some other kind of cause, and I just kind of woke up and she was deceased in the bed. But people have said, what kind of strategy is that? But interestingly enough, it's not unheard of. Our MK True Crime colleague Ashley Merchant and I were co-counsel on a murder case a number of years ago, and we did just the same thing, and we won the thing that we were fighting about, which was the murder. We pled not guilty to the murder and guilty to everything else. And you say to the jury, look, my client has admitted his or her role in this and admitted to the things that he or she did, but didn't do this part. So we're going to plead not guilty to that unless you decide. So it's not exactly unheard of, and sometimes it does work. It's worked for me. But in this particular case,
shut the fuck up.
case is a legal issue. This is a factual issue. And Mark, or Matt, you talked about the timing of these Google searches, right? And this starts early in the morning. It goes, I'm looking at it just like back to back to back to back, all the way from the wee hours of the morning to in the afternoon. And it's like, okay, you're Googling about whether or not you can use your wife's credit card. If she's missing, can I use it? My wife is missing. What should I do? Best ways to dispose of body parts after a murder. And you're Googling all these things, and you wonder what's he doing in between these searches, right? And it's almost like you wonder, is this somebody who's coked up? Is this somebody who's on some kind of drugs that they're just like intensely, doing these Google searches and awake in the middle of the night? And did he just find out that she had been having an affair, which has now been confirmed with the lover who's testified in the case? But the Google searches themselves, to your point, do give a snapshot into what he's thinking about, and these things all point to one thing.
They know we're here. Go loud, Black Ops.
We talked about that in the context of other cases. These Google searches, in my opinion, prove without any doubt that he killed her. He may not have thought about it for a long time. Malice can be developed in an instant. Premeditation and deliberation is not the kind of thing that requires extensive planning. It can be formed in an instant. I think something happened. He got mad and he purposely killed her, and then he's like, oh shit. And then he starts hitting Google, trying to figure out what to do. The jury's going to see through this. This is a transparent defense. The defense lawyer probably is hating his job right now because the defense is not going to work, in my view. And I see a conviction next week.
You know what's
Let me just read. Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say, I didn't know about Ashley and you, obviously, on another case. What had occurred to me, I don't know if you guys remember, I think it was almost 25 years ago. I was just Googling myself. I remember Dick DeGuerin, who's the great criminal defense lawyer in Texas, tried the case with Robert Durst, as I remember. And Durst was acquitted of a case where the body was dismembered. I think the guy's name was Black. And the argument there was that it was a self-defense, obviously nobody to contradict that, and that he dismembered the body afterwards, and he was acquitted. Dick got a not guilty on that. Durst was later convicted here in Los Angeles after doing the TV show on HBO and being caught on the microphone and saying something that was very incriminating. But what and Matt, to you, one of the things that has perplexed me about this, I thought originally, why would you, on a no-body case, when you have these searches, why did you plead guilty to the disposal? That seems kind of part of your defense. And then I was told that basically it's exceedingly rare to plead guilty in Massachusetts to a first-degree murder for a variety of reasons. Have you heard this?
I had not heard that, but one of the thoughts I had on this, Mark, now so everybody knows, in opening statement, the defense got up and said he woke up, his wife was dead, and they called it sudden, unexplained death, and he panicked, and that's the explanation for all that. So I guess we've got SIDS with babies, now we have STUDs with adults, which I've never heard of before. But what really struck me, Mark, is when you have an affair like this, you just get a good argument for a VAL, right, or a voluntary manslaughter, and for the viewer, the difference in sentencing between a voluntary manslaughter where somebody acts in the heat of passion when they commit a homicide versus first-degree murder is light years away from each other. A voluntary manslaughter.
That's the point, Matt, because as I understand the statutory scheme in Massachusetts, a first-degree murder, the judge has no, first of all, you have to get judicial consent. Judge has to accept it. Second of all, there is basically no upside to the defense because it's a mandatory LWOP, life without parole. And for the prosecutor, you gain nothing by offering a second because the second has a safety valve. And to your point, you could take it to trial, you can get a voluntary, and you're right. Anytime you've got people in Texas, that used to be Texas, you wouldn't even argue a voluntary manslaughter back in the day. You used to joke that in defense land in Texas, if you catch your lover with your current or the third lover together, you got a free pass on a murder. So there you go. I mean, but apparently,
you get in California, and every state's different. In California, what, Mark? You get for a voluntary manslaughter conviction, you get 1 year enhancement for the knife. You get a parole hearing in like 7 or 8 years.
It's exactly
you're probably getting out.
Back in the day, I'm old enough to remember one of the cases my father prosecuted. The guy, Lou Schindler, was in and out on a second-degree murder in 5 years back in the day.
Yeah, that's why I think behind the scenes, it's like what you said, Phil, about how you don't envy the job of the defense lawyers, how they're hating their life. One of the Google searches, I just got to read this to you guys. This is my favorite. 6 ways to dispose of a body. Murder, murder, murder. Kind of tough to stick with that opening statement when you got Google searches like that. And hey, I toss this one out to you, Phil. If the defense lawyer gets up and says that and gives this kind of elaborate explanation about how he wakes up next to his dead wife and panics, I think the only way without a body that you get that evidence is he's got to take the stand, right? Am I missing something?
Yeah, if you stand up and you tell the jury what the evidence is going to show X, Y, and Z according to your version of the facts, you're going to have some evidence to back it up, because otherwise you're going to get hammered by the prosecutor's close. They're going to say, look, the defense lawyer told you all this stuff was going to be proven. You've seen no evidence of it, and so the credibility of the lawyer is just in the tank. Speaking of which, if I could call for stop too, we have these in sound here and video, the defense lawyer cross-examining that state trooper whose name is Nicholas Guarino, and I want to talk on the other side of this thought about what he's suggesting. If someone a specific search term is life after disposing of a body, the results would simply be here, take the body to a cemetery. Something like that.
Again, I would have to search it to see. I can't say definitively. For that specific one, no.
So he's trying to say that this was something that some alternative explanation is something reasonable, like going to a cemetery, but it just flies in the face of common sense and reason when you look at these Google searches, how to dismember a body. Also, the best tool for dismembering a body. That's, to me, look, I'm not trying to be too hypercritical of a person, a lawyer who's doing probably the best he can, maybe with a really terrible set of facts, but I don't think that my cross-examination would have suggested that he's trying to find an appropriate cemetery at 4 o'clock in the morning doing this kind of Google search.
Well, in the defense, and I'm not looking at the discovery. One of the things I'm sure you guys know, when you get a forensic analysis of a computer search, it's a very interesting document. I mean, whether they're using Enphase, whether they're using one or the other, I'm not here to promote anybody's software program, but there's a way that it reads out. And one of the ways that it reads out, I've done this cross-examination countless times.
That's a win.
It
Don't
does
get cocky.
a very interesting kind of, when you do a Google search, it doesn't just produce it the way you get it. For instance, if you search on ChatGPT, it's a much more complicated kind of analysis. And you could see search terms or search queries that were not originally entered in that the search engine is actually performing.
Guild signatures all over this place. Hit them hard.
Kind of a query that said, how do I dispose of the body? I'm with you. You've lost the data. If it was some other query and part of the Enphase system, and I'm using that just as a shorter, but part of the forensic analysis shows that it did find other queries while searching for an answer. ChatGPT calls it thinking, if you want, for lack of a better term. You can make an argument there, and it seems to the truth in terms of the AI is doing, or the search engine is doing, an analysis that isn't necessarily going on in the user's brain.
Well, we've been watching this trial now for several days, and I haven't seen that proposition. I understand what you're saying, is that maybe he didn't actually type in those specific queries, yet it showed up somehow because of the way the Google algorithm works. I have not seen that come out. It seems to me that the prosecutor is saying he literally typed in these Google searches all through the night, all through the early hours of the morning, regular morning into the afternoon. And it's just one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen in terms of forensic computer analysis. But hey, what do I know?
Do we know if he's calling his own expert?
We don't know that yet. However, I can answer his first query, that first thought. No corpse, no problem. That's really similar to what Skylar De Leon in one of my old cases said to his wife in the jail on a recorded line. He said, hey, remember, no bodies, no murder. And no corpse still equals big problem.
By the way, both of you weren't even born when there was an LADA by the name of J. Miller Levy, who's legendary in the prosecutorial lore, who was the first guy, I think in 1954, who got a conviction with no body and became kind of the premier trial lawyer, prosecutor, who prosecuted no body cases. You would think that the AI or the search engines would know that.
I did 5 of these, as you know, Mark.
I do know that.
Juries do not like to give the benefit of successfully disposing of their victims to
Time's low. Put your head down and get it done.
Never had any issue.
It's interesting you say that, Matt. I find, from a defense standpoint, you get more traction with jurors if you own the act and you focus on the mens rea, as opposed to denying what seems to be the obvious act and trying to say, speaking of Sod, some other guy did it. The Sodic offense.
Well, this is, and you're absolutely right, this is a very interesting one, and we'll keep everybody informed on this. We're going to be watching it. I'm kind of pacing the sidelines. This is one that makes me want to be a prosecutor again.
Toxicology has come back. They now list some other people's deaths of fentanyl and whatever. So I believe her initial tox may be back, and they're still working through, cause and manner. But there's also a good chance, because of safety confidence,
clean it up, Jason.
They have to send, this out for additional testing or different type of testing to get, a result.
Just wonder if they're going to tell us about it, even if it does come in today, yesterday, or tomorrow. That's the other issue. I'm so short on time. I've got a million questions. Let's talk Elizabeth. That certificate that says Esmeralda. We don't know if if it's Celeste's cousin Esmeralda or if it's the cousin that did the GoFundMe. But the date is pretty fascinating, and the fact that it's found inside his home. This is April in 2024. The certificate. Celeste would have been 13, and again, Esmeralda might have been about 15 or 16. But this likely put Celeste inside David's home, doesn't it?
Well, it's inside the home, and it also, there was people aware of where Celeste was, and they're obviously in contact. They planned this out, and I don't believe this is just a coincidence. I believe that this is that Esmeralda, and David was there. We know at 6-5 that day. Celeste was a missing person, and then shortly after, she shows up at graduation, and I think, there's some people pushing back saying, she's, Esmeralda's a senior in high school. The point is that I don't think Celeste was the only person there for that graduation. I think there was adult family members there as well, and they should have notified law enforcement that Celeste is not, we've located her, and then they intervene and find out what's going on. But that didn't happen.
Well, but she was a runaway, but was she really missing? I mean, I've lost count now of the sightings and the moments where she was together with family members. I'm going to combine these two questions for time here. You have heard that the family told people after Celeste went missing not to look for her. And we've noticed that that Vegas photo was deleted from the aunt's Instagram. What do you make of that?
And that's Esmeralda's mom. And yes, I was told by a source very close that on the last time she was missing, the young nurse were saying, don't look for her. She's staying with other family members near LA. And all of a sudden we see a lot of interaction with Esmeralda and Esmeralda's mom. So it's, these are all dots we're collecting, and and then we'll connect them.
Which makes me wonder, what were they saying if they meant family members, that she's staying with family members? Because if she was staying with David, he was no family member. And I'll remind everybody that she was 14 when she went into that trunk, and 15 when her rotting body was taken out of that trunk. Steve Fisher, you do such great work. Keep coming back and call us and knock on the door and break into programming anytime.
Close it down, Black Ops.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you as well. All right, folks, up next. Halloween marked a half-century since one of America's most vexing crimes was committed. The murder of Martha Moxley. It's now 50 years old, and still it's a cold case. Although technically it's been solved, and then unsolved, and then solved again, and then unsolved again. And now finally, the Kennedy cousin who was convicted and then unconvicted, he is talking for the first time. It's our True Crime Rewind, and it's next. Murder mystery that has haunted a wealthy Connecticut town for half a century and created intrigue for true crime sleuths right across the country. In tonight's True Crime Rewind, we go back 50 years, Halloween.
Solid. Do it again so we can get the hell out of here.
The body of 50-year-old Martha Moxley was found dead in the backyard of her home in Greenwich. She'd been brutally beaten and stabbed with a golf club after a pre-Halloween night, fun night out with her friends. The shocking murder rocked the town, but also the Kennedys, because one of their own was arrested for it. But it didn't happen for almost 25 years. Michael Seiko, a cousin of the Kennedys, was charged in the year 2000. His mom was Anne
Stay
Seiko.
sharp. The
His
guild's up to
aunt
something.
was Ethel Seiko, before Ethel married Bobby Kennedy, the Kennedy. And the golf club turned murder weapon that belonged to Seiko's family. The arrest kicked off a 2-decade legal battle between Martha's parents and Seiko's family and the Connecticut police.
It's been 24 years since Martha Moxley's murder. A neighbor discovers a 15-year-old's body in the backyard of her home in Greenwich. For more than 2 decades, Moxley's mother has waited for justice.
I never know if I'd be going on this long. I mean, it's a horrible thing to have happen. He just in shock for so long. It's just, Anyway, and then gradually to come out of it.
Martha Moxley was beaten to death with a golf club. Among possible suspects, Moxley's neighbors, Thomas and Michael Skakel, nephews of Robert and Ethel Kennedy. Moxley had been with the Skakels the night of her murder, and investigators say the weapon was traced to the Skakel home. The case remained unsolved. A childhood friend of Moxley says police had a difficult time.
I don't think they were equipped to handle something like this. I think they ran into a lot of problems with cooperation among a lot of people around the Belhaven.
The high-profile case prompted a barrage of media coverage, novels, and articles, and police got new tips and started a grand jury investigation 2 years ago.
I think the police have a lot of information that they didn't have years ago. A lot of people have come forward.
The Skakel family has remained publicly silent, although Michael's father, Rushton Skakel, was forced to testify last year despite his resistance.
Michael Skakel was convicted in 2002 and sentenced to 20 years to life for Martha Moxley's murder. But 11 years later, in October of 2013, a Connecticut judge threw out the conviction and let him out on bond. The judge said that his defense attorney failed to adequately represent him. Prosecutors immediately appealed that decision, and in 2016, they won, with Connecticut's Supreme Court reinstating Skakel's murder conviction. But in yet another twist, 2 years after that, in 2018, his murder conviction was tossed out yet again. This time not by the judge, but by the state Supreme Court.
Get serious,
and again, the
Black
reason
Ops.
his lawyer had
MTC
failed
is
to
scraping
present
bottom.
evidence of an alibi. And then finally, in 2020, prosecutors threw in the towel, saying that it just wasn't worth trying again, but they didn't think that they could win the case. And while it was a decision that ended that chapter of the murder case, it left open the mystery. If Michael Skakel didn't kill Martha Moxley, who did? And now, for the first time, Michael Skakel is speaking out. Here he is in a brand new pageant by NBC News Studios, dead certain the Martha Moxley murder.
And then all of a sudden it's closing and I'm still done. Took my breath away. Absolutely. Last thing I thought you were honestly. Even then I didn't know the facts of the case. I had no idea when Martha was killed. I had no idea what happened. I was a good fall
I'm
guy.
in their system. That's Curtains, Black Ops.
Joining me now is Michael Skakel's current attorney, Stephen Seeger. Great to have you on. Thank you so much for being here. I have a question that's kind of weird right off the bat. Why does Michael Skakel need an attorney right now? I mean, I know that murder's forever. There's no statute of limitations. Is he looking over his shoulder and thinking it can happen again?
No, right now, the case has been dismissed. I mean, I was the lawyer at trial after the reversal came through, and the dismissal took place when State's Attorney Colangelo nullied the case, and by operation of law, it was dismissed. As a result of that, we continued to pursue and try to vindicate Michael's rights by initiating a couple different lawsuits. One is a civil rights lawsuit. The other is a lawsuit that's asking to have the alleged confession tapes returned. They've somehow mysteriously just disappeared. And so we launched a lawsuit against the town of Greenwich and the police department, along with Frank Garr, who was the investigator at the State's Attorney's Office and also formerly with the Greenwich Police Department.
So was the case dismissed with prejudice, which means it can never come back?
Well, the case was nullied originally, and in Connecticut, after the nully period expires, 13 months by operation of law, it's dismissed completely. Dismissed with prejudice is more like a civil concept. I don't really see it too much in the criminal courts, and it's just simply dismissed.
So if he's not looking over his shoulder based on, the fear that someone would come back and put him in prison again, is there any exposure for his brother, for Thomas? And all of this happening, by the way, a year after Dorothy Moxley, who we just saw in that package, died. 20 years ago, she said she didn't think she was going to live that long. She lived for another 24 years, and she still believes that it was either Michael. I think she believed it was Michael. But there was always that suspicion that maybe his brother Thomas had something to do with it. Is Thomas exposed?
He was originally, and that would be up to the State's Attorney's Office if they pursue the case. I've never heard anything about Tommy being pursued as a consequence of Michael's dismissal.
But he was one of the prime suspects, of course, because he was the individual that was last seen with her. He was of the size and the body build that would more likely fit the bill of a person who could have committed this heinous crime with a golf club with a brute force and then be able to drag a body. If you compare that to Michael, what he looked like when he was 15, he looked like a little girl at that point. And there's a lot of things, and you mentioned the podcast at the beginning of the show, there's a lot of things that will come out that people have never heard before. So, for example, you're going to hear from witnesses who gave statements that weren't used. You're going to hear about other evidence that we could not introduce. And I don't want to spoil the podcast and what it brings to the table, but I think the narrative is already changing, and it will change a lot more. And the reason for that is kind of simple. It's in a court of law, you have the rules of evidence, and when the media comes into a courtroom, they film and they write about what they hear in court. And there's certain parameters that exist in the context of a criminal case. Everybody knows that client can't talk. I mean, he has no obligation to talk and not to talk in most cases. But between the rules of evidence and what you can and can't say and how you advise the client at trial, there's a lot of the story that gets left behind. And I mean, that's the purpose of the appellate court, to sort of look over the shoulder of the trial court if something has happened with evidence. But it's a different story, different format. The podcast will surprise people, to be sure.
Well, I have just a couple seconds left, but I want to ask you, he said I was just the fall guy, and I wonder if he wants to find the real killer, if only to clear his name, or does he want this whole thing behind him? He wants to just crawl away and never see a press or a headline or a police officer again.
Michael and Martha were friends. Of course, he'd like to be able to serve up the real killer. And what I know for sure is that it's not him. In terms of putting something like this behind you, it's very difficult. It's wishful thinking to a large extent. What he means by fall guy is that a lead investigator in this case, for example, who has a book deal with an investigator that's supposed to be turning into a movie deal. He's got an economic interest in it. And that's just one example of how the deck of cards is stacked against him. And here's why I mention this. A lot of people say, oh, he's a Kennedy cousin, and therefore he got special treatment. Well, I don't know with that kind of power and influence that people speculate about how he lands in jail for 11 and a half years. It's ludicrous to believe that. He didn't do the crime. He wasn't anywhere near it.
I am fascinated. I want you to keep us posted, if you would, about the suit against Greenwich and the police investigator, and we'll see you back in the program when there's movement there. Thanks so much for this tonight.
We'll do. Have a good night. Thanks for having me.
You too. All right, folks, coming up, do you remember this guy? His name is Nicholas Rossi. He tried to skate on criminal charges by pretending that he was a British lord instead of an American rapist.
When I was walking, my brain, I went to darkness. Not to set him up, to another, out to my soul.
Yeah, Arthur Knight, my ass. He's not even British. He is, however, guilty. Up next, see the judge throw the book at him. Sorry, see the judge give him the book using kid gloves. Yeah.
The round is ours. Exemplary work.
It took almost 20 years, but the state of Utah has finally closed the books on Nicholas Rossi. See the judge gave Rossi 5 to left for that 2 rapes. He got the same sentence. If you don't remember the name Nicholas Rossi, do not feel bad. He actually wanted to be in the whole world again. Remember when he got one else entirely to avoid being found and charged? I do.
Prop hunt. Secure the mission area at all costs.
This is not number 36.
Your Honor, we brought him with Nicholas Rossi, and his name is Arthur Knight.
Well, no, that's one of the AKAs. It looks like. We're having a really. Is it July 11th, 1987?
No, lady, it's 22nd of November.
22nd of November, 1986.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, Tamara Vasquez for the state. This individual has been extradited, and he has not admitted his name or birth date accurately, and so we're going to be successful on that today either to also known as.
Objection, my lady. That is complete hearsay.
Yeah, you heard that right. Objection, my lady. Look, because of a backlog of the crime lab, it took almost a decade to identify this Yahoo and actually bring him in as a suspect in either of those rapes, and by which time Rossi was back in his native Rhode Island, where he posted his own obituary in a newspaper, and then set out for Ireland, and then decided on England. But since there wasn't a death certificate, the authorities kept up the hunt, and that's when Nicholas Rossi became Arthur Brown, an Irishman. That same year, he married an English woman named Miranda Knight, and he became Arthur Knight. Immediately moved to Glasgow, Scotland, where my native accent really stinks, I know, but this guy was cosplaying as a professor, and that is who he claimed to be in the virtual court hearing you just saw in January of last year. So how was he eventually found out? He got himself COVID, and the staff of a Glasgow hospital recognized his tattoos from a police flyer, and they fingerprinted him, and they turned him in. A few months later, Rossi did an interview
DC
with
is nearing zero. Close the deal.
And if you caught it, you won't mind seeing it again. The telltale cat came up again and disappeared.
Arthur, if you would show us your arms, because that could easily sort of, can you roll up your sleeves? Can you roll up the top of your sleeves? Yeah. And go ahead. So I think it would look, and again, it's hard to tell from here.
He refused to go any higher, but the tats were there. Really wonder if he's going to get any more tats in prison. All right, coming up next, even if P. Diddy had never recorded a song or produced an album or discovered a big star or maybe stood trial for sex trafficking, he'd be a legend just for his parties. Diddy's 50th birthday party made the Grammys and the Met look like PTA meetings.
Not done.
But
Get
another
back
birthday
out
just
there.
came and went for Sean Combs, and we got our hands on the prison menus that he was served. After the break, how it compared to his usual epic blowout. Something happened to Sean Diddy Combs yesterday that you probably would have read about were he not in prison. He had a birthday.
Hide and
His
survive.
56th birthday. And since inmates have a lot of time alone with their thoughts in prison, I assume he thought at least once about his 50th birthday back in 2019 and the high-end, over-the-top party to end all parties that went along with it. This thing was sponsored by Ciroc Vodka, which created a cocktail called the Governess just for that event. I'm sure there's a story behind that name, but I don't know it. If you do, text me. Also, Diddy commissioned a sculpture for the center of his rose garden that beamed light patterns throughout the entire lavish grounds. Take a look at that thing. Amazing. The entertainment for this 50th birthday included a concert by Mary J. Blige. And the guest list included Jay-Z and Beyonce, Post Malone, Usher, and Leonardo DiCaprio. If you were lucky enough to be on the guest list, you got a goodie bag full of cannabis products. And then at 2 a.m., the partygoers were treated to a big McDonald's on Gold. Hear me out. This was a special McDonald's menu. It was created by the McDonald's company just for Diddy's big night. So nothing that you've ever seen in the drive-thru, nor will you ever. And again, full platters. But McDonald's or not, that late night was better than what Diddy was served for his birthday this year. And I know that because we have the menus from the several politics in Jersey. For the next 2 years. So here we go. Yesterday, wake up, happy birthday. Breakfast is fruit, a choice between bran flakes and breakfast cake, whatever that is, or whole wheat bread and sweet jelly. We got that with skim milk, margarine, and sugar substitutes. That was at 2 a.m. Lunch was at 11 a.m. and Diddy got chicken parm, not bad, or a chickpea burger. It was his choice. He got pasta with marinara sauce, spinach, garlic bread, or whole wheat bread, and a salad. Dinner was at 4:30 p.m. and Diddy got a choice between cheese pizza or navy beans, Italian pasta salad, green beans, garden salad.
MTC is running dry. It is now or never.
Diddy was allowed to have a birthday cake for his cheesecake squares for $1.95, $2.60. The next two birthdays also come brighter than this one. His Diddy is due to get out in May of 2028, so I'm thinking his Big Fat 9 should be historic, depending on how much money he has left in time to get out. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out the podcast. Drop Dead Serious. Stick around for me. Hey everybody, happy Monday. Good to see you. Big breaking news to start off this program. In the case of the missing 9-year-old girl from Lompoc, California, Melody Buzzard. Her mother, as you'll recall, was arrested and hauled off in cuffs on Friday. The police said it was for false imprisonment, nothing to do with the missing child. Well, tonight we're learning what it does have to do with and who it was done to, according to police. And that, but also weird and bizarre news about this mother who did not say where her daughter is. She's pulling the heels in the county jail, but we are now discovering what her life was
Find,
like.
identify, and eliminate all known causes.
The age of her victim's daughter. So you will not believe what happened to her. But news on that as well. There's more action at her home over the weekend and today. I'm going to tell you all of that. I got a live report from out in South Her house. That's coming in just a moment. And there you go. That's a picture right there. Over the weekend, believe it or not, more agents arriving and spending a lot of time inside the house. And something arrived today as well. Okay, so all of that coming in just a moment. But then I have this other story that has brought to mind many other unsolved cases. It's the case of Anna Heckner. Anna was found dead on a Carnival cruise ship named Horizon. Very popular cruise line, very popular ship. But Anna was found dead on Friday, the day before that cruise ship came back home into port. There's a lot of rumors and speculation about how she died, and none of them are real. And the questions that surround her boyfriend with her, they are very serious indeed. And why I say it brings to mind other cases, because 20 years ago, almost the identical scenario played out for my guest. Their 20-year-old daughter was on a cruise, and suddenly she was dead as well. Here's what you need to know about cruise ships and where they stay. It ain't America, and it don't operate like America. And tonight you're going to learn just how difficult it is to solve anything when you're on the high seas, what it means for murder, what it means for investigation, and what it means for families who are desperate for answers. All that coming in just a moment. And then also, do you remember the Heights? Of course you do. Remember how we're still looking for the jewels? Of course you do. You know how they arrested 7 people already? Of course you do. And do you remember that detective who was standing out front with the rest of the police? And he was so incredibly dapper. He was dressed like Inspector Clouseau.
Zero closed and
So the mystery's solved. You know who he is. And all I can say is it's a big problem for all the potential criminals out there. AKA, don't book your trip. Yeah, I have something to tell you about that guy. All of this is coming and straight ahead, but let's begin with the breaking of the Melody Buzzard case. Her mother, Ashley Buzzard, you know, arrested Friday, charged with felony false imprisonment. Police told us on Friday, and we'll say tonight, that the arrest was quote, not loosely related to Melody's disappearance. But we're now learning what exactly the arrest was related to. The criminal complaint accuses Ashley Buzzard of, quote, violating the personal liberty of a man named Tyler Lewis, and that is the name of that purpose in this case, of course. The complaint says that the crime happened last Thursday, November 6th, in Lompoc, where
Your stocks are plummeting. Get this under control.
And while that leaves us with more questions and answers, we have learned a whole lot more today about Ashley's backstory. So let me tell you, long before Ashley Buzzard was jailed for the crime that we're talking about tonight, and long before she was a pregnant mother,
Prop hunt. Do not let the search team destroy you.
This mother also was a 9-year-old girl on the margin. She was surrounded by danger, with an unstable home life herself. And what I'm about to tell you is a bit surprising, okay? Sometimes she had no home at all. But despite those unhappy parallels with her own daughter, Melody, there is one monumental difference. Ashley's mother, from all indications, did everything that she could to protect her little girl. She kept young Ashley safe. She kept her love. She kept young Ashley fed and clothed and educated. Exhibit A is the newspaper story that our team uncovered today, in 1995. February 11th, to be exact, the Santa Maria Times, and the headline reads, educators extend a hand to the homeless. And there, big as day, is a picture of curly-haired 9-year-old Ashley Buzzard sitting beside her tutor. This story is all about young Ashley's escape with her mother, Lori. Father. And before I go on, you should know that we've spoken with Ashley's mother, and we've identified that she is the Lori Miranda in the story, and she's verified the details. And let me quote the article. With no job, home, or car, and $40 in her pocket, Lori Miranda and her young daughter, that would be Ashley, faced the streets of Santa Maria. Originally living in Orange County, Lori Miranda, 33, said she and Ashley, 9 years old, moved from place to place, often sleeping in hotels, to be free of Lori Miranda's husband. This is a quote. He would smash our windows and harass us, what Lori said. To escape, Lori Miranda and Ashley boarded a bus in June, and after staying in a relative for a month, they came to Santa Ana. The two eventually found their way to the Good Samaritan shelter, where they remained for 30 days. Lori enrolled Ashley into school. For 2 hours after school, Ashley began and continued to participate in the homeless education /liaison.
You're almost out of time. Buckle down and take this.
Remember that Ashley was 9 years old back then, the same age that her missing daughter, Melody, is. That brings me to photos and videos that Ashley's mother of Ashley and her daughter Melody together in 2020, when Melody was only about 4 years old. And the clip you're about to hear, you hear Grandma Lori on the camera being playful with little Melody, while the mom Ashley appears to be more
Well done, Sec Team. You're everything the guild stands for.
That should keep them off our backs for a while.
That picture you're looking at is little Melody, and to the right, her mom, Ashley. And I know what you're thinking. That doesn't look like the Ashley that you've seen. And I hear you. Boy, do I ever. So let's compare and contrast. Pull up the surveillance video from Ashley and Melody's recent visit to a car rental office on October 7th. That's unbelievable, the difference in appearance. Ashley in the black t-shirt, Ashley in the wig. Hard to believe it's the same person. And on the right, you'll remember this was Dave Warren's two-day road trip to and from Nebraska. The police say the last known sighting of the little Melody in the hoodie back there. And right there at the desk with her mom. It was October 9th near the Colorado-Utah border. Ashley returned to her home in Lompoc, California the next day without Melody. Lompoc is also where we see my News Nation colleague Nancy Wu, who joins me live now outside of Ashley and Melody's home in Lompoc. Okay, Nancy, so much to get to tonight. You got your hands on this criminal complaint just within the last hour or so. So what to you stood out that I haven't already said?
Oh, a lot stood out to us, Ashley, and we want to show everyone that criminal complaint we just got a short time ago from Superior Court, Santa Barbara County. It's really just less than half a page long, but we want to highlight some parts of it because it is quite revealing about what allegedly happened at this house on or around November 6th, it says, of 2025 in the county of Santa Barbara. The crime of false imprisonment by violence, a felony, was committed by Ashley Butler, who did unlawfully violate the liberty of Tyler S. Brewer. Said violation being affected by violence, menace, fraud, and deceit. And you see that headline, special allegation aggravating factors. It goes on to read the manner in which the crime was carried out indicates planning, sophistication, and professionalism. We have learned that Ashley will be in court on Wednesday afternoon to face this felony charge. In the meantime, she remains jailed up in the Santa Maria area. And Ashley, as you know, we have tracked down Tyler S. Brewer, and we have spoken with him. And bear with me as I'm going to refer to my notes because I want to relay what he told us accurately. Tyler Brewer tells us that he has known Ashley through a friend since 2014. He's been coming over here to check on her since all of this was publicized. He claims he was told where Melody was dropped off and who she was left with, but he is not sharing that information with us. Tyler's also concerned that because of Ashley's mental history and recent behavior, he's not sure that what she told him is actually true. Now, on November 6th, the day of the incident, he says Ashley started acting irrationally while he was here, accused him of working with police and the paternal side of the family to take Melody away from her. He says she kept shutting her eyes and making fists, and she blocked the door, preventing him from leaving. She slammed the front door shut and engaged 4 locks on that door. She did eventually let him leave, and he went right to authorities to report what happened. Now, he claims that she has just mental issues. She's extremely paranoid. She's a totally different person from when they first met, and he says he's very concerned about Melody's well-being, and he suspects Melody may be somewhere in Utah. So based on
time's low, put your head down and get it done.
Told News Nation, there is hope that Melody is out there and alive. So what Tyler Brewer telling News Nation, providing a lot of hope tonight, Ashley.
Well, let's go over that. That's just incredible information that he has uploaded. So Nancy, if I'm to understand this, he says that he shared the information of where she, quote unquote, dropped off Melody. He thinks it's in the Utah area. He does not share exactly with us what she apparently shared with him. But did he say he shared everything with the police? everything that Ashley told him.
Yeah, based on what we hear, we haven't heard everything. And again, because of her mental state and how she's been acting lately, he's not sure that what she's been saying is the truth.
We're not going down on my watch. Get yourself together.
What to believe, but you know, he is telling us what she told him. And if it is truthful, then Melody is out there.
And did he give any further understanding of what drop means? I mean, you don't just drop a child, you know, on a desert road. Was there some, do you know there was some drop off location, some person, someone who cared for her? Anything more that indicates what kind of a drop off was?
Fishing for information.
Don't let the search team destroy you.
And he's not quite ready to tell more information. His name just got released publicly within the last couple of hours, so he's just coming to terms with that. He's not sure, you know, he wants to do interviews or speak out publicly in any way, but fortunately, you know, he did speak with us, relayed that information, and we relayed as much as we could to all of you.
Okay, well, let's move on to the other action that happened in the house behind you. Action not only this weekend, but today. Walk me through what the neighbors all said happened there.
Well, first off, I mean, Ashley's getting packages delivered still. At the front door, there are 3 packages. One is from Amazon, one is from Kohl's, one came from Burlington, New Jersey. It looks to be some kind of clothing item. So we don't know if she's just been shopping recently or what, but in talking to the neighbors, we know that 4 investigators were here at Ashley's house. They brought a van on Saturday afternoon. It was around 2 o'clock, the neighbor says. The officers, apparently investigators, they were dressed in plain clothes. They went inside. They were there for about an hour. But according to the neighbor, they did not leave with anything. In talking with other neighbors, though, they're expressing that they're glad that Ashley is in custody and hopefully providing some answers and talking now to police. But a lot of neighbors that we talked to around here today, they don't recall seeing Melody at all. Playing outside, walking down the sidewalk, anything, or even playing in the backyard. Neighbors have not seen Melody anywhere around this house. So they are curious as to what happened to her. They are keeping hope alive that, you know, Melody's alive and out there and will be found. So Ashley remains behind bars.
Nancy, thank goodness for that. Hopefully they can squeeze her for information while she's behind bars. I do
Time check, Black Ops. Credits are about to roll.
The dichotomy of 5 years ago, the video that her mother, Lori Miranda, shared with us of Ashley with her little daughter, Melody. It does not look at all like the Ashley we're seeing in the videos, the arrest video, the surveillance video. Did Lori Miranda say anything to you about her relationship with her daughter and, of course, her granddaughter?
Get ready for the next
Melody?
one.
Like, what sort of information has she shed on you when you were able to speak with her?
Yes. Lori has not spoken with Ashley since 2023. The video that we saw earlier with Melody calling for Pumpkin, that was in 2020, and Melody was about 4 years old. And yes, Ashley looks far different. She's obviously lost a considerable amount of weight in recent
Safety's
years.
off. We're not here to make friends.
This house about 2 years ago, and neighbors say that Ashley was larger when she first moved in. So that drastic weight loss appears to have happened like within the last year or so. But when the surveillance pictures came out of Ashley and Melody at the car rental business, Lori, the mother, says that she did not recognize that as her daughter, because that's not how she remembers what we're seeing there. The Ashley with the pumpkin. That's what she remembers Ashley
actually looking like. I mean, it's like two different people. I'm looking on the screen right now. It just looks like two completely different people. Great information, just fantastic reporting on this. Nancy Lou, thank you. Break in if anything has happened this evening, or if you get any further information from Tyler Brewer, just, knock and I'll provide all our other reporting for this. Appreciate it. On that story, and straight ahead we got a PTSD. A high school senior from Florida sets sail on a cruise ship with friends and dies somewhere, somehow along the way. Anna Kepner was a straight A student who was planning a career in the military. Now she's the center of an FBI investigation. After the breakup of Florida, the very same nightmare 20 years ago. They say if anyone thinks the FBI can get answers, good luck. Especially when it comes to investigating cruise ships. That's next. As hard as it can be to investigate death on land, it is a whole other world when the death occurs at sea, especially on a cruise ship. Forget the different countries and the different laws that come into play. There is the constant turnover of passengers and the housekeeping that goes along with it. And if you're a crew member, there are
Get serious, Black Ops. MTC is scraping bottom.
Undisturbed. So it might take time to figure out what happened to Anna Kepner, an 18-year-old high school senior from Titusville, Florida. Anna set sail on the Carnival cruise ship for Sunday, but she was dead before the ship returned to Miami this past Saturday. The Miami-Dade medical examiner now says that Anna died Friday morning, and now we know the FBI is on the case. But no other details are being released. The cruise line says it is cooperating with investigators, but as for the young woman's devastated family, they say that she was joyful and kind, a straight-A student who planned to join the military after graduation next spring. My next guests know exactly what Anna's loved ones are going through right now. Ashley Barnett went on a Carnival cruise from California to Mexico to celebrate her 25th birthday. That was back in 2005.
Systems compromised. Cut your wires. Go to ground.
24 hours after boarding. Her boyfriend
That went tango uniform real fast.
Dead, unresponsive. There too, the FBI investigated, but no one has ever been charged. Ashley's mother, Jamie Buck, is now president of the International Cruise Victims Association, which helps navigate the tricky landscape that cruise victims. She joins me now along with her brother, Seth Barnett. Thank you both for being on the program, and may I say, my condolences. Look, 20 years may seem like a long time to some people, but it isn't, I think, to folks like you. So sorry that we're talking to you under these circumstances. But I think that you have valuable information about what this family is probably going through right now. Jamie, what happened to your daughter Ashley in 2005?
It's actually still a mystery for us as well, and it's been 20 years. If that's any kind of indicator about how information comes forth from both the cruise lines and from the FBI, it's a nightmare. And, I wish I had better news to say to this grieving family, but with actually, what we know is she got on that ship with her boyfriend and some of his friends who were all
months ago. An output came out yesterday.
And, I've gone through the whole, am I just being a naive mom?
But yeah, Paragon, which he's not on, but he's been on his camo grind, and